Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Clara Burks, and I'm joined by my colleague Jim Patterson. Today, we'll be discussing the topic of shaping the future of project portfolio management, AI-powered adaptive PPM with OnePlan. This webinar is part of our PPM series, so if you enjoy the topic, please explore our channel for more, and keep an eye out for new webinar topics coming soon. I hope you gain some insights from this webinar and feel excited about the new developments happening in the industry and here at OnePlan. Thank you again, and I'll now turn the presentation over to Jim.
And thanks for joining, everybody. Today's topic is, a common theme. Things are changing all around us. Nothing is staying still. And the future of project portfolio management is no different. With the advent of the prevalence and the introduction of artificial intelligence into many organizations, this also is impacting project and portfolio management and changing the dynamics of what we need to do in that realm. Hence bringing the need for what we'll define here as more adaptive PPM and OnePlan and how that brings that to the party. So let's get started. What's driving all this is really change, and the pace of that change just continues to accelerate as technology advances, as work methods advance, as corporate cultures and other supporting technologies advance. It creates opportunities and challenges that we have to address to meet the demands of that acceleration. And that's what this is all about here today, is how do we respond to that change and where are things headed? Now, traditional project portfolio management, which we've done for decades now, this really did advance the ball for us as organizations. It really did move things forward and improve organizations across the board. And we have these capabilities and more effectiveness. And it wasn't a trivial thing. It was significant advances that we had. And the typical traditional PPM benefits that we achieved were, things like more clarity and consistency into our project management activities across the board, helping us define and pursue clearer objectives, understanding what everybody was working on and how that impacted us, making planning operations more realistic and complete by having comprehensive portfolios that we had visibility into, being able to see that we have the resources to allocate and apply to the things that we're committing to, and even just overall improving the quality of our deliverables by hopefully properly allocating and taking on work at the pace of which we can actually sustain it and do it. And just the better visibility and reporting was something that came out of that as well. Now, on top of that, though, we've had an evolution of the way people execute on individual projects, and that may not be the same across the board in an organization. People are trying to become more agile and more nimble as we go across, and that agility and agile approaches are continuing to grow. But waterfall approaches from traditional are still widely used, and some projects by their nature are more conducive to more waterfall than agile approach. And there's all the agile variants that we're doing. Some people are doing Kanban, some people are doing more Scrum or other sprint or hybrid methodologies that they're using, or some cherry-picked versions that meet the needs of their organization. And then there's continuous delivery models as well that allow us to do things in a more continuous stream of delivery across things. So all these things now in this day and age must be factored in if we're looking at a comprehensive project and portfolio management approach and solution. On top of that, easy access to tools. Cloud tools are easy to access these days for project management and scheduling and resource management, etc. Hence, there's been a proliferation of tools across most organizations. And this, graphic depicts a customer that we worked with who, in the different disciplines and in the different functional departmental areas, these are the types of tools or the variations of tools that were being used to manage these different aspects of that. The ability to harness all that, to make some comprehensive and cohesive sense out of it all, becomes challenging the more the proliferation occurs. And then we end up with information silos, and this breeds increased costs and inefficiencies. We end up having to do some type of manual mashup of data from multiple tools and multiple data sources. We then have to create reports out of all that aggregated data. Then we have to package and distribute reports to our stakeholders and organizational levels and our leadership. If we have data in multiple places, good chance that there's duplication of data entry and the same data is existing in multiple places, and it's time consuming and also prone to errors as we transcribe it. And then there's disconnected information that's difficult to remain accurate and current across the board and consistent. Not to mention, if you're a team member, and I have all these different places to go to provide status and updates in all these different places and silos, chasing them down for status in all those different areas comprehensively becomes a challenge. So tracking the completeness and timeliness of submissions on updates and things like that becomes a chore. And then just comprehensive resource planning across it all is typically hard to do, and then ends up being some separate artifact outside of what we're doing in the portfolio of projects oftentimes. And sometimes it has not related one-to-one very well to what our project portfolio is saying that we're going to be doing. So hence, adaptive portfolio management. And, what do we mean by this? Well, as I talked about, we've been in more traditional project portfolio management for a long time over on the right in the green. And in this day and age, it's both trendy and advisable for organizations to become more agile as they go through. And some strive to get all the way over to the far left here on the dark blue with more across the board agile portfolio management. Now, that being said, not all organizations get there. And if they do go on that journey, it can take several years to get to that place. So whether it be transitionary on that journey, or what the analysts are finding, that most organizations tend to land permanently in an adaptive portfolio management state, where it's a combination of more traditional, more agile approaches, different methodologies and different tools that are being used. And we see this in the demand that we get from our customers, that this seems to be the most prevalent requirement and need that we're addressing for customers, and the reason why they put our solutions in place. And this really cuts across the entire organization enterprise-wide. Yes, there's the PMOs and the EPMOs. There's large innovation and transformation programs. Information technology departments have their own needs with application development and infrastructure and such. The just overall application or product development is for people that are developing products, or professional services for the way we deliver that to external customers. And just there's the whole aspect of sales and marketing and the campaigns and the things around that, as well as just overall operations to factor in the resource management focus of things like that. So nobody's untouched by this. Now, the analysts like Gartner have found in their research that there is a general move in organizations from the traditional, more departmental oriented PMOs into enterprise portfolio or program management offices. And they found that this is in about a year and a half ago when this survey was done, they found that 49% of organizations at that time have an EPMO function now, as opposed to the more fragmented departmental PMOs within an organization. Now, why the shift for this? Well, mostly because in this new digital age, business leaders are increasingly generating a continuous flux of threats and opportunities that must be dealt with. And these have potential implications, so that if they're not addressed, they can have negative impacts for us. Now, responding to those threats and opportunities often requires a significant amount of effort and cost and magnitude of that effort that we must embark upon across the board. It also requires then effective orchestration and governance at scale, meaning just your purview within your department isn't a broad enough scope or scale to effectively manage something across an entire organization. So the execution of these large enterprise-wide initiatives and having the ability across that all to have quick and effective portfolio prioritization and respond to change as it comes in is a coveted capability for digital business success, is what's been found by Gartner. Now, with the right strategic relationships, having the right charter and focus and importance of an EPMO, a core focus of achieving key business objectives and outcomes and positioning the appropriate place in the enterprise is where the EPMO can significantly improve the organization's ability to execute on these large initiatives, and also increase the likelihood that at the end of the day, they're going to deliver value, and to deliver value in the right areas and where the organization really wants to go strategically. Now, if we think about this topic of adaptive PPM today, adaptive PPM has a number of different dimensions. One is on the outer portion of this, you can have one or many portfolios that you are managing across your organization. Yes, there's your project portfolio. There may be different programs and they have their portfolios, Professional services may have a portfolio of things they're doing for external customers or clients. There's an IT service portfolio potentially, a product portfolio if you're a product development type of organization, not to mention application portfolios, which could be product oriented, but it could be internal applications that you're managing and maintaining to support the business, and it may have impact on the other portfolios. So an adaptive PPM solution may have to address all these different types of portfolios and then provide transparency and insights across all of it so we can make good decisions, provide the ability for us to make quick adjustments and shift priorities, be able to balance our investments in the resources with the demand because we generally can't do everything that people request. And then we also have to support teams that use a variety of tools and execution methods, right? And be able to automate the consolidation of this information so it's easy to get to and we can have our finger on the pulse of things at any given point in time. Ultimately, we need to provide a single source of truth regardless of the type of work or where it's being performed in the organization. Now, one of the keys to adaptive PPM is that teams should be able to execute how they need to, that power of choices we're going to talk about. And that regardless of the tools or the methodologies, down below here, we're showing different tools that might be being used, methodologies or frameworks like Agile or more iterative, more waterfall. Be able to do that across and roll them up into the organization for visibility and metrics and reporting, and also just analysis purposes. And the key is the team should be able to do what they need, but leadership should get the visibility they need for good decision making and be able to keep their finger on the pulse of how the business is doing. Now, even if people are going all agile, like we talked about earlier on, there's still things that are required in this, because even if some people are doing all agile, a lot of organizations are agile at the team level, and they're using more agile approaches like Scrum, or other pieces, or doing some lean things. But leadership may still want to see things in terms of the language of the business, meaning they want more financial metrics. Maybe they want to understand more delivery-oriented types of dates and milestones that the agile approach isn't necessarily focused on. And the idea is we have to provide and meet the needs of all these constituencies in our organization. OnePlan as a solution is really designed for this modern challenge. The adaptive portfolio management, the power to choose. Here we're showing a selection of some of the execution tools that we can support. Now, OnePlan has its own planning tools within it. It can do its own waterfall planning. It can do its own more agile sprint-based planning. But many organizations have already committed in some way to other tool sets and have a lot invested in time and thought and effort into those plans. And the ability to bring in planning from those into a common portfolio framework is something that OnePlan addresses for organizations. It provides that benefit. It does. Now, on the intake side of things, this can actually be as simple as just a request area that requests come in for projects, and you have ideas and requests that come in, and you vet them and determine whether or not you want to proceed with some of them. Other ones may start with business strategies, and you may have things like objectives and key results that drive what we should be doing and the requests that we should be thinking of in context of that strategy. And as I mentioned, additional portfolios, that enterprise architecture that includes things like our applications or our business capabilities or our value streams that we're managing to, may come into play and may be a source of intake for our projects. But ultimately, whatever that source is, or however complex that your intake scenario is, we're ultimately going to have to choose what we're going to work on. And in that planning at the portfolio management level, you have to have good portfolio visibility, whether it be more traditional list views of portfolios, whether they may be more board-oriented views for the agile teams that want to do things like program increment planning at the portfolio level, or maybe even roadmap views to understand timing and delivery of things, very key for more product and deliverable oriented types of organizations. And then there's the capacity planning. What does this mean for our capacity and demand? Are the things we're choosing to do and the resource estimates contained within, do they roll up and aggregate to something we can actually fulfill? Now, that chart I see here has got a lot of red on it. Maybe not. Financial planning, understanding where we're at any given point in time, original budgets, revised forecasts, actuals in a very detailed cost category basis on a time phase basis is something that OnePlan can provide. And then be able to respond to change with what if scenario modeling, be able to take this at the portfolio level and say, what can we do? What should we do? What are our alternatives, and help us evaluate between those things. OnePlan provides the tools and capability to do that. Now, at the execution level, once we decide what we're going to work on, as I'd mentioned, OnePlan has its own work plan capability. So, for example, you can build your own waterfall plans right in here, or you can build your own backlogs and sprint plans right within OnePlan itself. But there is a prevalence of other execution tools out there, and OnePlan has a plethora of connectors and integrations with our connector platform that allows us to bring the data in from these other sources if you're currently using those, though you don't need to use them long term if you don't want to. Ultimately, managing other work items in here like issues and risks and change requests and other things like that is also inherent in there. Now, the individual resource planning that happens on an individual project or initiative basis, that happens in here as well as being able to enable things like full resource negotiation between project managers and the folks that manage and own the resources within the organization. The ability to do that on an individual level and have it roll up to that overall global capacity plan that we showed in the planning section is key for people's success. And then the team members themselves, there's something in it for them as well. One place, one pane of glass for them to go to see everything that's been put on their plate across the entire solution and be able to status them in one place and provide feedback to the project. And if there's time reporting that needs to be done, there's a timesheet that's built into the system as well. Now, reporting and analytics, that's something that has to be part of any system. Native status reports that are a natural output of the process so that you can, on a periodic basis, say weekly, give people those reports and actually snapshot that data, keep history so you can understand how things are trending within the organization. We have a rich set of dashboards in Power BI that are fed automatically from OnePlan, such that you can see things at the portfolio level, you can see things at a project level, down to detailed task levels, etc., at any given point in time. And a really cool feature that really people are leveraging heavily is this visualization capability. As we have all these things that are interrelated, maybe we're associated with strategies, or maybe we're associated with different ideas or requests or different product lines or applications, we can see those interrelations very quickly within a visualizer within OnePlan itself. Ultimately, this is all tools to help make sure that we deliver value and whatever those deliverables are that we're delivering as part of our efforts. Now, part of our title today is around artificial intelligence, and OnePlan has its own Sophia GPT that provides all that AI capability as an assistant to you, and we'll talk more about the details around it to help us get better at this and get better insights and actually help us with certain tasks and efforts. Ultimately, this is all here so that we can choose the right work to do and then ultimately execute well on it. Now, this connector stuff that we talked about in here is basically, it's not one-off, coded types of connectors that, you have to maintain yourselves. OnePlan has its own OneConnect integration platform that allows us with pre-built connectors to enable those connections, and we manage those in the cloud, meaning whatever genre tool, the agile tools for software development, more financial soft systems that you need to get financial data to and from, the work management or project management tools that you want to connect to. If you have other ideation tools that you're using, CRM systems that may be feeding in projects from a professional services basis, or even service management systems, etc. Those connectors are then managed with a productized set of connectors in a platform that allows you to bring this stuff together into a common hub. Once again, removing that silo effect that we talked about earlier on in the slides. Now, Sophia GPT is a game changer, we think. It is a purpose-built, dedicated PPM AI that is there for the purposes of that endeavor. It is AI-driven collaboration. It's using Microsoft's Azure OpenAI, so it's got the general knowledge and learnings from that infrastructure and language model, and it's tailored to transform your strategic and adaptive portfolio and work management capabilities. It has intuitive interaction, so it's all language-based like you're used to doing with ChatGPT, for example. And it has data integration, meaning it's not only leveraging OpenAI's general extensive network of information, but also OnePlan's own resources. It's been trained on our discipline, on our tool, and the nature of those types of things, and actually can leverage the data that's on the screen with you of your OnePlan data to help formulate its answers and its analysis. So it simplifies things like task data entry, information retrieval, etc. Now, where we're at on this is in the fourth node of AI-based assistant for SPM strategic portfolio management, and adaptive portfolio management. Essentially, it's an inbuilt AI assistant that's right within the solution, and we use prompts just like you do with ChatGPT to solicit the effect or the answers or the product that you're looking for. We are quickly moving into a fully automated mode. We're not going to be too far in the future where OnePlan and Sophia is going to be providing some automated things that will do things for you ongoing without you having to ask. So this is moving very rapidly, and the benefits are profound as far as what we can achieve. Now, analysts like Gartner have defined use cases for AI and portfolio management, which we have most of these available for you today in OnePlan with Sophia today. There's augmented data entry, so you can do things like have you create schedules or add to plans and those types of things. Automated information retrieval to analyze that data. Communication automation, so you can generate communications to stakeholders on a more automated basis and save you time and effort there. Resource estimation, helping you understand what the resource requirements should be for a certain type of project and help reduce the risk of overstaffing. And then help you analyze or highlight to you underperforming investments and scrutinize those things to highlight them to you, maybe looking at more dimensions that we do with our human analysis. And then there's forecast completion and spending that it can analyze and identify patterns and things like that. Budget plan and optimization to help us maybe take a plan that we put together and help us optimize that and do it better by achieving some efficiencies. Risk identification that it can see in the plans that we already have in place. Defect reduction, if we scrutinize the place where areas where defects are most likely to occur, hopefully we can prepare for them and be ready for them in advance. And then just understanding where data anomalies are, where things might be missing, where it should be expecting things. So these are just all areas that AI can help us with, because as we manage large portfolios in this realm, there's a large amount of data and time phase data that needs to be culled through in order to understand these things. Now, OnePlan with Sophia GPT, it is always available. It's always available in the lower right portion of your screen, wherever you're at in OnePlan, and allows you to enter your prompts to ask it questions in a language-based approach to allow you to see, try to get the answers that you want to get. I thought I'd go over to a demonstration a little bit of OnePlan itself and hit on some of these topics as we go on through. You know, OnePlan is designed to be used just in your favorite browser, but it also has extensions that allows you to access this from within the tools you're working in. For example, if you're in the Power Platform and you're in a Power App, you can actually enable OnePlan within your Power App. You can leverage it right from Microsoft Teams. It's an authorized Microsoft Teams application. You can access it through your work in Azure DevOps, because we have extensions that allow you to use the OnePlan capabilities right within Azure DevOps. We do the same thing in Jira. We do the same thing in SharePoint and Microsoft Dynamics, etc. So the idea here is that you can consume OnePlan the way you'd like to. Now, what I'm showing you here is a home page or an insights page that every user, depending on their role, they'll see something a little bit different. But the idea here is Daniel Williams can see insights on things that require his attention, and these insights can be generated and created as you need them to be. There's also access to recent conversations on things you're involved in, whether they be resources that you're involved with, plans you're involved with, or specific individual tasks, and allows you to drill into those threads and look at those conversations and participate without having to look at each individual project or thread. We also have quick access to the plans that I have access to. So if you have a very large portfolio, not having to navigate through those things to get to the ones that you want and understand where you're at on those things is very important, and even alerts to things that may be coming up and due for you that you need to work on at any given point in time. So once again, easy tailored information to help every participant, whatever their role is, get involved very easily. Now, we talked about intake, and I'll talk briefly about the strategy part because we've done strategic portfolio management before. But one of the things that you may have, and one of the things in adaptive portfolio management in our template, is that you can build strategic plans. And in this particular case, I've got objectives and key results. Objectives being the individual strategies, the key results being the tangible metrics. And the idea here is we can track this plan right here. So we can manage a strategic plan from right here, but we can also use this data to align it with our projects so we can get more strategic alignment with everything. For example, if I drill into this increase project success rate objective, Here, you can tailor a form to categorize and characterize all the information you want around this particular strategy, and you can align it with certain key results that you want to track as far as tangible measures on whether or not you're meeting the goal of achieving this. Now, we also have, in the reporting side of things, we have that visualizer I talked about in the slides. Now, I can see that this strategy has no really precedents or predecessors or successors, but we do have associations. And if I look at the what we call the runway, I can see that this particular objective has those 3 key results, which in turn are being fed or associated with 4 different projects and or epics, which in turn are related to certain products or applications, et cetera, or business capabilities, et cetera, within the system. And we can see that certain things downstream that we're associated with may not be tracking well. Now, what you can do from this visualizer at any given point in time is you can actually drill in, and you can either drill into that item or pop up a quick edit window such that you can come in and see, how is that doing? Why is it off track, for example, et cetera, and get to all the details around that from a specific visualizer. Now, if I go in and look at, any other item, whether it's a product or an application, I can do the exact same thing. Now, on the idea side of the intake, we talked about ideas and requests. As I get into that, you'll see that I have the ability to capture ideas and requests in here, such that I have a portfolio of my ideas or all ideas that as a funnel, before it can actually touch my portfolio, I may have a funnel of plethora of things that we may or may not do, that we want to prioritize and work through as we decide what we want to embark upon in our actual portfolios or active portfolios. For example, here, if I go into the, let's say the website redesign, and I look at the business case I put together, and these forms are configurable. The prioritization method that I might use a business driver method to drive a prioritization score. I might use a weighted shortest job first and a more agile or lean approach to generate a WSJF, weighted shortest job first prioritization score, and other items we might be associated within this thing here. The idea here is it's the same thing holds true in here. As we go here and look at how these things are going, as I'm deciding whether or not to do this, I see that I have no real hard dependencies, but I can see this website redesign is here. It's supporting this key result, which is supporting this strategy, and it may factor into my decision as to whether or not I should approve this, depending on the criticality of what it is that we're working on here upstream. And then we might have some products or business capabilities or applications that need to be factored in as well, but in this case, we don't. Now, ultimately, as we go through this and we go back to our ideas portfolio, you could come in at any given point in time, and through workflow or through someone with the permissions to make these decisions, you can actually do what we call a reorganize or convert, such that you can take this idea and convert it into a project or an epic if it's a more agile type of approach and that type of things, such that you can then capture all the things you got in the idea process and carry it forward into the execution phase of this project and not lose any of the data we captured in that ideation type of phase. So once again, upstream, that whole intake process is strong. And we even have the ability through other capabilities in these idea realms to be able to come in and even do things like have crowdsourcing or voting on the ideas, et cetera, as well as go through other vetting and approval processes that you may want to have. In the actual portfolio of projects and initiatives that we have within our organization, as I look at this, we have flexible portfolio management in here, meaning if I come in here and I look at a hierarchy that I have in here, we can establish what we consider a primary physical hierarchy. In this particular case, we've got portfolios with programs within them, and then those programs might have projects and epics within it. This is totally configurable for the way you would look at the world and organizationally. In this particular case, I've got portfolios that, really represent different areas of the organization, but however you look at the world, your portfolio structure can be modeled that way. And if you notice in here, I not only have projects and epics within this portfolio and program within there, you'll notice that I have icons over here to the left that indicate connections to other tools that I may have within this portfolio. So for example, notice that most of these have a connection with Teams or a Teams site so that I can use that for content and collaboration in that realm. In this case, I'm connected to a Microsoft Planner plan or an Azure DevOps plan or a Jira plan or a Smartsheet plan or a Microsoft project on the desktop, professional, or Microsoft project for the web. And then notice that some of these ones with Teams only would indicate to me that the planning I'm doing so far is only being done within OnePlan itself. So I've got OnePlan standalone plans, and I've got a mixture of tools being fed in, given that power of choice as we go on through there, okay? The different views that I might have in here, I'm looking at an overall portfolio list view in a more hierarchical structure, and you can have more financial oriented views, more effort oriented views, more prioritization oriented type of views, etc. Or I could just look at the core projects and epics in here, and I could sort and group and filter them and summarize them by whatever metadata I choose to put against my projects. So for example, if I'm looking at all the projects and epics without the hierarchy, I can come in here and do things like say, let me look at this by business unit and very quickly be able to say, in the capital planning area, these are the projects that we're doing in capital planning. Or maybe I've categorized my projects some way, and I want to understand how many business transformation projects I'm currently working on versus, say, compliance projects, etc. You're only limited by your imagination. Any metadata that you put against this, and you can have as many custom fields as you want against this portfolio, allows you to summarize in those ways. We also have board views. So for those in the more agile oriented types of world, you can structure boards that have the columns by whatever data you like, and then swim lanes by whatever data you like as well. And you could also put constraints in here. So for example, in any given state of active, I can see that I have a constraint of $10 million, but I'm actually doing just under $16 million worth of things within there right now, which says I'm a little bit overcommitted on that, right? I might have a backlog of things that I'm working on that I want to pull into the active portfolio, et cetera. And I can even add swim lanes in here. So for example, if I was going to look at, say, those categories of projects again, I could say, here's all my process improvement cards. Here's all my strategic cards, et cetera, as I go through that. And you just use any of the metadata that way to go through that as well. Now, I still have the same capabilities of saying red, yellow, green as far as the status on these things, and I can see that this market research is going red. Now, I can only put so much data on a card, so I put the high-level information there, but at any given point in time, if I'm curious, I can go in and look at it and pop out the information regarding that market research and understand why it's where it's at, how it's categorized, what the status is, what the priority is. Why is it red? Well, it's mostly because the schedule is off track. Everything else seems to be green except for that schedule. It looks like we're behind schedule on that, but we're within budget. The idea is I can get those types of insights on here any given time that I want. And we also have the roadmap views. And those roadmap views allow us to look at it in a more traditional roadmap flexibly. So for example, I've got the different program increments for each quarter showing up here for context. And then within here, I can see this one's grouped by the different business units and the different roadmaps of the elements that are in our portfolio within that, and the red, yellow, green for the overall status of those things. As I go through that, I can just go look at this, and like anything else, I can drill in and look at the details at any given point in time on any particular project. So once again, that quick edit detail is available to me here, just like I showed you earlier on before. If I go through this and I want to look at this in a different fashion, that roadmaps, let's just say, and let's just say I wanted to look at it by, instead of business unit, once again, let's just say I wanted to look at it by something like priority. Now, all of a sudden, I can start looking at my high, medium, and low priority things and see where those are factored in and what the status is on those things. So very flexible in the way that I'd like to look at that. Now, if I go back to my list views and I go back to a, let's just say, portfolio summary view, like we were in prior. Let's just say I actively want to leverage Sophia's analysis on this as I go through this, and of all the data that I have within this, and I want to ask Sophia a question. Let's just say, ask it this question. Let me call up Sophia, and let me ask, which 3 projects are at highest risk of failure and why? And it's giving me a list of projects that are at risk of failure and to why. Facing both scheduling and financial challenges, which could lead to failure if not addressed. Already facing scheduling, though it has not fully started, it's already in trouble. This one indicates that it's not progressing as planned and may face challenges successfully completing on time. So these are identified as the 3 projects that are highest at risk. So once again, some analysis quickly that can be done that would take more time and effort on your part to come to those conclusions potentially. Now, in this portfolio, you can also drill into all the details around your projects, which roll up into that portfolio. For example, you can have all the project details you need, and these forms are configurable, the sections, the data, and the metadata you have around it. This carried forth the business case from the idea stage that we were in, how it's currently prioritized, what the current state of the financials are and the effort, what our KPIs are, red, yellow, green, etc. But once again, any data you'd like to add here, as well as the life cycle stages as you might want in here as well. Now, every project would likely have a work plan. And as I look at the work plans, you know, we have a few things. We have the ability to do different what we call work types. So for example, our schedule work type would allow us to do more waterfall type planning, right? You know, more traditional, and look at this stuff and we can interject it and look at it with or without a Gantt chart, for example, more traditionally. And all this stuff can be done, you know, right within OnePlan itself, right? To be able to do those types of schedules. Now, we also have the ability to do other types, but for example, this one was built right in OnePlan from templates that are available in OnePlan. However, you could have built this plan by connecting it to another planning tool. So for example, as I go through something like this, you have a choice. If I had Smartsheet plans that I wanted to do, or Microsoft Project for the Web plans, or Microsoft Planner, or Project Professional, all those are available to us. The same thing holds true if we're in, say, a backlog work type. In this backlog work type, you may do more agile type of approaches where you actually, you know, build out your overall backlog, and you may even alternately come through here and say, you know, what are the where are the sprints on this, and we can identify sprints and allocate and understand which elements are in which sprints, and are they exceeding our story points or hours constraints that we put on those, for example. We can look at all that stuff right here within OnePlan and build it within, or we could choose to source that data from your plans that you're doing agile work with, in, say, in Azure DevOps or Jira. And for example, if I selected an Azure DevOps plan, I can always go in and create a new plan in Azure DevOps if I've set it up as bi-directional, or just connect to an existing item or existing plan over within Azure DevOps as well. So once again, the power of choice that you have within here. Now, all this stuff can derive things like resource plans. So as we either work from the bottom up from the actual work plans themselves, or we go from the top down, like in a more of a traditional capacity plan. And where I'll go with that is an overall global resource plan at this point. So as I look at this, all the different plans that I worked on from the individual project by project basis allows me to go down and then roll up all the different plans that specific people or roles or teams might be working on, because we can plan in those increments, and allow me to see what everybody's working on and whether they're over or under allocated. In this particular case, I'm looking at things in terms of overall hours, but I could very easily go look at that in terms of percentages of allocation or full-time equivalents, and look and see that, you know, Amanda looks like she's good, but Andy here looks like he's 1.5 times allocated in June and slightly over allocated here in September. I can even look at this in a variety of different increments. So for example, if I was going to look at this, say, for example, by role, and organize this resource view by roles, for example, and then let's just say I drilled into the developer role, I can see where we're over and under allocated here, and I can see specifically that I have specific people that have significant over allocation periods within here, but I can also see that I have generic developer allocations that I haven't put a name to yet, and that I still have to understand or determine who I'm going to put on these things. So for example, let's just say I went into this customer experience project that's still generically assigned with a developer, and I want to find candidates. And if I want to find a best match for that, I can go look and see what developers I might have available. And in the time frame that I need resources in here for this particular project, I can see that maybe Toby Stevens actually has remaining availability here where I could actually replace that generic with Toby and reconcile that as I go on through. And I could do the same thing with overallocated people. It doesn't have to be just the generics. Here, I can see that if I did all these projects, it would require a total of $20 million and then almost $18 million in this fiscal year. Now, I might do a scenario here where I decide that I want to have a constraint of $10 million. And the scenario here would be a combination of me selecting or deselecting projects based upon priority, potentially, and or potentially time phasing those projects. So I might defer things into later periods, for example, or pull things into other periods based upon where they fall. Now, in this particular case, I now have a selection of projects, which was only 17 in, and now there's 18 of them that are out. That basically is saying I can get within that $10 million constraint if I have this mix of projects. Conversely, I could have done some things like, say, selected more things, but maybe I could have moved this out and have it re-rack this at a different period of time and calculate that out. And then I could also look at other alternatives, like a $15 million scenario. And then when I want to analyze and compare the different scenarios that I have, I can look at things like budgets and committed effort and target benefits. And for another $5 million, if I found another $5 million of money, I might be able to achieve, it looks $20 million more in benefit. So it might be worth my while to go try and find that funding if I could achieve that type of value and benefit for the organization. And then you can do other things like look at the details and compare those things, compare how the different scenarios compare with each other on things like which projects were in or out in each different scenario, where did they rank priority-wise in each of those scenarios, et cetera. And even look at those things graphically as well in the dashboard. So we have different ways that you can compare those things as well as put the results out to an Excel spreadsheet for further analysis. But right here within OnePlan, you do have the ability to do more pivot chart type of analysis in here, right? So we can come in here and look at this stuff from a more pivot position and get the data in here that we want. We can look at more of the traditional portfolio management bubble charts. So based on the scenarios, seeing what the prioritization and benefits are on these axes and the size of the different projects that were selected, and even look at the things that we didn't select in the mix here to see if maybe we overlooked something that we should have selected. And then just overall, that whole concept of the visualizer that we talked about earlier on, that's available to us right here in the What If Modeler as well. And in a different context here, it's telling me the plans that are selected, and here's some unselected predecessors and successors. Might give us some food for thought. Maybe we should include something that we excluded because of some dependency or association that's required as well. So we've got that, let alone the overall runway that we talked about, so we can look at this thing from an overall context and how things are all interrelated with one another. Okay, so ultimately, as I am looking at a model, I could also ask it the same types of questions, like what projects should we consider moving from out to in and why, and maybe help and analyze maybe some things we've overlooked and look at those things across the board. So just a high-level overview of some of the capabilities within OnePlan and how it brings adaptive portfolio management to the mix. Just an idea in OnePlan, the things that we're doing. So we talked about strategic planning and how we can use Sophia within that. For example, we could use it to analyze data to identify patterns, opportunities, and potential risks. We could use portfolio optimization, so we could provide a summary of portfolio data at any given point in time, asking Sophia. Budget plan optimization, select projects based upon criteria, which we showed you a live example of that. Work management, being able to do augmented data entry, do a business case definition in here based upon the type of project that it is, or potentially build a project schedule for a smart home automation system. This one's pretty slick. If I come through here and I ran this, I'm gonna run this recorded scenario here, where I might create a new project, put it in the portfolio in the right place and create a smart home automation project, and then put in the details and the metadata around that, and I go to a work plan. OnePlan has the ability to do templates that you can store, or you can use the AI, right, to actually build a template for you. So for example, here, I'm asking it to build me a schedule for a smart home automation system, and it's coming up with a full work breakdown structure for me of the things that I might put into a plan. And I can choose to keep that, align it with my resources in my resource pool, and then insert it as a template. And then here, right in OnePlan, you now have a plan that was built by the AI, which you can now augment. Now, sure, you can go in here and do things like change durations and other things like that and modify it to meet your specific needs. But once again, it went a long way to helping me start a plan on a particular project. Pretty slick. There's also optimizing that schedule, right, that it can do. And you can ask it to do some things like find some efficiencies within the plan that either you built or it built, and identify potential risks within that plan and how to mitigate them. Resource capacity planning, be able to build a resource plan by hours by month by this plan. This is kind of cool. If I come in here, knowing the type of project it is and the type of resources that are required on this already, it's coming in and it's giving me a time phase plan by month. It knows enough, for example, that my business analysts are front loaded on the project, that my QA engineers are more backloaded on the projects, etc. So it's giving me an idea of what it's going to take to do this particular project that I can then implement within OnePlan. We talked about the resource hiring one, forecasting based on the financials and understanding predictively where things are going and where our risks might be. Helping me with a project summary email to my manager. I'll finish with this. For example, helping me in my general communications. It might help me by in email format, giving a recap of where the project stands. And you could do this for status reporting as well and help it generate based upon the knowledge it has. Now, obviously, you're going to want to vet this and put your own twist on it, but the initiation of this and the formulation of the key components, it can save you a lot of time and effort in formulating these things for you. Let's summarize and talk about potential next steps. So today, OnePlan for adaptive PPM, we can ensure that organizations are working on the right things and aligned to strategies and priorities, which is very key in today's day and age. Visibility will allow for rapid responses to changing conditions and make us more agile and more responsive to market and other conditions that change on us rapidly. And it also can keep users working in their preferred tools or solutions that are appropriate for their role, maturity, and their type of work. And it also supports a variety of execution methodologies and tools. We also improve adoption overall by minimizing duplication of effort and saving people time and unnecessary complexity. And we provide a modern user experience that hopefully drives better participation and compliance than maybe what they're doing today. And we talked about that move from PMOs and EPMOs, but it supports the needs of both of them and adds value to the business and helps them add value to the business. And teams can continue to be agile, but leadership gets the visibility and the metrics they require, even if they're not on the same page when it comes to agility. And Sophia GPT provides that AI assistant for advanced analysis and automation and streamlining of tasks, hopefully freeing us up for more high value tasks by saving all that time. Now, OnePlan is focused in this market of PPM, and we're consistently recognized as a market leader. Last 5 years running, Microsoft has recognized us as a global PPM Partner of the Year, either as their winner or as their finalist 5 years running. And we get recognized by people like Gartner in their Voice of the Customer Peer Insights and Infotech Research, et cetera, as well as other software review sites. We do webinars like this all the time, and we're currently planning on the next wave of webinars, and we should have those out on our website shortly. But right now we have a whole roster of on-demand webinars that we've done in the past. So we've got a whole library out there that you might want to check out and see if there's any of interest to you. Now, we do offer free trials. And if you want to try this adaptive project portfolio management stuff that we showed you here today, there is a template specifically for adaptive project portfolio management. You can try it with sample data in there so that you can get the visualizations and all the things that you want. You can add your own things to it, etc. We're happy to help you and chaperone you through that. So feel free to either go to the links you see up above or reach out to us and we can help chaperone you through it. If you're not quite there yet and you want to look at what it's going to take to get into a solution like this, We can do a roadmap workshop to review your current use of solutions and tools, assess your current requirements and where you'd like to go in the future, and give you an idea what it would take to implement or migrate to something like that. The good news is that from a total cost of ownership, you may own a bunch of the tools already that you may be needing to use in this, and so it may just be an incremental investment. So the free trials, the roadmap workshop, and even if you're not ready for either of those, I gave you a very quick high-level demo today. If you want a more personalized one-on-one demonstration, reach out to us at contact@oneplan.ai and we'll connect you with the right person to support you. And we can do a demo that's more tailored to your needs, your pain points, and your perspective. And you can just research more about us at www.oneplan.ai if that's where you're at. So with that, I'd just like to thank you. I know everybody's time is valuable and it's tough to carve this out. So we appreciate your time and attention today. At OnePlan, we like to think of this as the power of one, bringing everything into one hub, into one solution, and one single source of truth and pane of glass. Thank you again, and hope you're having a great day.